Hey there. Once again, it's your girl Vitamin Key, and I want to welcome you to Level Up Single Mom. Level Up Single Mom is a platform where I teach single mothers and Black women how to self actualize with ease and grace. So, I'm coming to you with a story that I was very hesitant to speak about. It is going viral all over the internet streets, but I had a conversation with some people within my closer circle, and I feel like I'm clear enough to give the message that I would want to give about something like this. It's very serious. If you haven't already deduced, this is going to be about Isis. She coined herself the new trophy wife and her unfortunate situation with the abuse of her youngest children. So, Isis is a content creator that recently revealed on her platform that her well to do husband and father of her youngest three children has touched the middle two children. And she discovered that her two youngest daughters had been touched. And the oldest one, who was only four, they were 4 and 2, disclosed to her that it was her father that had touched her. Another detail of the story that is being kind of dragged within the discussion about it is the fact that she attributed her quote unquote good fortune in securing her husband and lifestyle to the teachings of Shira 7. And she was very much so promoting hypergamy and the idea that you needed to conform to the preferences of quote unquote high value men to secure the lifestyle that she appeared to be living. She also credited Kevin Samuels for being upfront and quote unquote real about what someone like her needed to do in order to be attractive and valuable to a quote unquote high value man. But we'll get into that later. Like I said, I personally did not want to talk about this, at least not at first, because it was such a triggering subject. I know it was bringing up a lot of emotion within myself, and I've been seeing people's reaction to this situation, and it's hard. It's hard to talk about in a way that is not going to come off as judgmental, that's not going to come off as if you're dragging her. Because really, like, what can you say about a situation like this? Level Up Single Mom is a safe space. It's meant to be a safe space where Black women can put their armor down, as I like to say. But I do want to take a moment to um, set the intention, as I do many times, that I'm not trying to drag this woman. Like, it's clear to me. I watched the video of her disclosing this information, and she is clearly in the thick of it. You know, she is clearly holding on and trying to do the best she can. And I'm actually shocked because I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I don't know if y'all would have just ever heard from me again, right? But I do want to say personally that I salute her. And I am sending her every bit of strength and comfort because she's going to need it to help her and her babies get through this. So, that being said, like I said, I was very hesitant to talk about this because it can be so easy to fall into the hubris of sitting up high and looking down low in situations like this. And not just that, but I mean, a baby was harmed. Babies were harmed. Literal babies were harmed. And that's a highly emotional thing. And it's not necessarily that I think any of the commentary is wrong, but something I've noticed in all of the stories that have been coming out surrounding what has been coined as baby mama culture. And that's something we'll have to talk about one day because I don't really like that, where people are kind of pushing back against the notion of Black women being criticized and, calling things misogynoir and classism. And and this is Kiana right now telling my personal opinion. I'll be honest, if you were to go to my social media, you may see that you think I have kind of conservative views. Depending on who's looking at it, they might interpret them as such. But in reality, I that's because I think it's important to have conversations. And there's some conversations that no matter how you slice it, it's going to feel and sound like to the person that's being discussed or talked to that it is bashing or dragging. It's going to be uncomfortable. But like I said, I'm hoping that I'm fostering a space here at Level Up Single Mom where we can have those conversations and it's understood that nobody's better than anybody else. We all fall short of the glory of God, so to speak. And I definitely will give examples of when it was me, you know. And while I have had a few people try me, on my journey as a single mom, call themselves correcting me or holding me accountable, and I'm using air quotes for that, as people like to say, and I did have to check a few people. Ultimately, the only person that could truly hold me accountable and did was myself. And those conversations I had with myself sounded a lot like the kinds of conversations that are going to be necessary for things to change within our community and within our lives. Now, I don't believe that people have to be dragged and publicly humiliated. And I do believe there is nuance and care that needs to be taken when having these conversations, both with and about these people. But like I said, it is complicated and it's never going to feel good. And that's the God's honest truth. It's never going to feel good talking about these things. So I just kind of wanted to put that in there as a caveat, and anyone that's coming in that's never been here can understand, what it is I'm trying to do. But there's always going to be a little pain, unfortunately, especially in situations like this. So my take on all that has happened is that this situation highlights the vulnerability of single mothers in particular, and how and why content creators target, and I don't use that word lightly, single mothers. We are constantly told that we need to atone, we need to take accountability, and we need to do our best to conform to the preferences of men. And maybe we will be chosen by a man. And I spoke about this in my video about the Black women's empowerment space and vetting the content creators you are choosing. And that's something else we're going to kind of get into in this video, but I'm going to hold off on that. But I will link that somewhere so that you can go and take a look at that. Even then, though, we must remember that our children are a burden and a strike against us. And this is in the eyes of men. I've spoken previously about psychic landmines that blew up in my own mind when I realized I was becoming a single mother, that had to do with how single mothers are treated and seen within our society. These are ideas and biases and stereotypes that I had awareness of, but they didn't apply to me. So I never really took the time to examine them or feel any particular way about them. But I noticed that once I recognized myself as someone who could be classified as a quote unquote single mother, I started doing a lot of things to try to combat that. I started doing a lot of things and making a lot of compromises to try to keep myself from having to stay in that reality. And that's really a scary thing. Even then, it was scary happening, but it's even scarier looking back on it to recognize just how deeply embedded these negative views of single mothers are. Even though the single mothers around us, we see them loving us and taking care of us and working hard, and but when you see a woman who is otherwise very smart and capable, doing a lot of weird and wacky things for the attention or continued affections of a man, you start to realize just how deeply this stuff runs. And it's in this framework that I kind of see, aside from the obvious blunders that all the creators I've seen speak on this have belabored about this situation and her specifically, it stands out to me that she was susceptible to the idea that she could earn her spot in respectability. What I mean by that is, like I mentioned before, she had talked about following Kevin Samuels, and she even did a video where she kind of paralleled Kevin Samuels and Shira 7 and was saying that they were saying the same thing. And in a way, yes, in my opinion. But she was saying how Shira 7, she mostly credited her for her life glow up and everything like that. She was saying that Shira 7 was just telling her what you needed to do to appeal to a certain kind of man that could take care of you. And that is also something that I believe about Shira 7's teaching. I want to take a moment to be very clear about something. And this is as a woman content consumer and maybe even Shira 7's target audience. I personally have never picked up on anything within what I've seen of Shira 7 that says to lower yourself or compromise in any kind of way. Yes, she does tell you to change certain things about your appearance, about how you act, and about how you approach conflict in different situations. But for the most part, it's coming from a place of a superior posture and being in control and being uncompromising about the fact that you need certain things to be handled by whatever man you choose to deal with. And she's very, very clear about walking away as soon as something is not going your way. She's very clear about that. She does not play when it comes to the idea of someone like trying to jerk you around. And so people attributing what has happened to the teachings of Shira Seven, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I find that to be unfair, grossly unfair, because that is not her ministry, in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong again because I do not watch her constantly, but I'm just saying I like to call a spade, and I don't. But back to talking about ISIS, and I feel like she got caught up in the manosphere ideology that said that she could earn her spot in a man's life by being beautiful, by being preferential, physically, and by being agreeable in personality, by just kind of going with the flow and being willing to be quote unquote led and being willing to play the part of a trophy for a well to do man. This man that she married was also well beyond her years. He was 20 years older than her. Now, that is something that Shira will say, go ahead and get you an older man because they know that. But she was willing to adopt and accept the step by step blueprint that these people are selling vulnerable women, emotionally vulnerable women, to have them believe that they can secure the status and validation of having a man choose them, and a well to do man at that, choose them for partnership. As you can see, she has the look down to a T. She is gorgeous and she is poised, the way she speaks and everything. Like, she has the goods, clearly. Unfortunately, she just put all of her charms on the wrong man. Now, I'm going to touch a bit on the fact that she also disclosed within her confessional about what had happened to her children, that the man she married had assaulted her very early on within their relationship. As a matter of fact, he had assaulted her 4 times within the beginning stages of their relationship. But they got married within, according to her, like a week to a month's time. In one of her videos, she explained how she went from being a single mother to a trophy wife within I think the thumbnail said a week. And that's crazy. That's a bit wild. Not gonna lie about that. But I I just can't help but notice that so much of what she was so proud of had to do with her securing a man. And so it's so important. Please listen to me if you hear nothing else. It is so important to make sure, outside of anybody else, anything else, like, who are you? Who would you want to be if there was no one else around to know you, to judge you, to interact with you? Who are you and what would you want to be doing? And that's why I say, as single mothers, we are so susceptible to people selling us all types of snake oil and dreams, because we are constantly being told that we're missing something, that we're not enough, that we're not good enough, that we're not wanted, that we've got baggage and this and that and the other. And I'm telling you, like, that is not the truth. And that's why here on this platform, our main emphasis is self-actualization in all things. You can be and do whatever it is you want to be and do, but make sure you're doing it from a place of understanding that you know your value, that you know what you are worth. Even if nobody else wants to treat you like you are worth that, that's fine, because you know who you are. And that's not just for single mothers, that's also for women in general. Because the more self actualized you are as a person, the simpler it is, I'll say, to understand when somebody else is coming in on the wrong tip, when somebody is coming else looking to make you an extension of themselves. Because that is what these manosphere teachings are. And to an extent, Shira 7. But the thing that and this is not, a Shira 7 fan post or anything. I'm just calling it how I think I see it. The thing I like about Shira 7 is that even though she is telling you to conform to the preferences of men, wealthy men specifically, she's also very clear about you needing to understand what it is that you want, and you needing to be willing to walk away if you don't get what it is that you want. She's not telling you to haggle. She's not telling you to bargain. She's not telling you to cry or cajole. She's telling you to know yourself enough to know what you want and to go for it with the intent on winning. And as someone who, is out of the game in terms of dealing with men, because I don't have the patience, I couldn't care less what they want, think, or feel. I can respect that. As someone who's just like, yeah, get what you want, girl. Some of us want partnership. Some of us want to be a mother and a wife. And that's something that I think is very true about this particular woman, Isis. And makes me feel even more for her because there are so many things that can happen within this journey of being a mother, being a single mother, just being a Black woman that can make you feel bad and wrong and scar you for having aspired to get what you want. How dare you? You know what I mean? Like it's such a sad, heartbreaking thing. And I spent a long time willing myself not to want anything because I just thought it was only going to come with heartache. So I can only imagine what she is going through, and I feel so bad for her and her babies. I also want to highlight something that, and this is just speculation on my part, but it's something I mentioned before that she had been assaulted by this man in the beginning of her relationship with him as his wife. I know that there are times when people, and not just men, did things to me, not sexual things, but just, transgressed me, hurt my feelings, were insensitive, whatever. And I internalized it to feel like, oh, well, that's just me. They were just doing it to me for whatever reason. And not realizing that it was more so a them issue and they could do it to anybody. And unfortunately, later on down the line, I learned the hard way that they would also do that to my children. And I'm talking about disregard. I'm talking about disregard. I'm talking about disrespect. I'm talking about putting them on the back burner in situations when they deserved better and shouldn't have been. And so that's a tough thing to learn when you are taking on the entire world on your shoulders. It can just feel like, oh, it's just me. I'm not worthy, or nobody's checking for me. Nobody's thinking about me, but my baby is so precious. Of course they would take care of my baby. Of course they wouldn't do that to my child. And really, like, who thinks anybody in their right mind would touch a child? So I definitely have a lot of grace for her in that respect. So in true Level Up Single Mom fashion, like I said, we have discussed the downsides and the negatives of her situation and conduct. But I also like to have actionable advice or just something positive to take away, which is why I didn't necessarily want to talk about this before because it just is all bad. But like I said, I've had time to look at the situation from a couple of different angles, talk to a few people, and just process myself through my own triggered emotion about it. And so these are the things that I've come up with. First of all, there's been a lot of heated discussion about the way Black women are talked to, specifically around, when, how, and whom they choose to have children. And in my opinion, there are valid points on both sides. While we have some people saying that people are just looking to drag Black women and uplift themselves through judging Black women and their choices, which is true in a lot of cases. I'm also of the belief that stuff needs to get talked about. It's never going to be convenient and it's never going to feel good. I mentioned this before when it comes to talking about certain things because these things are embarrassing. It's never going to feel good for someone to talk to you about how you've been letting some man drag you for months or years, how you've been letting some man continuously impregnate you when he wasn't taking good care of you, when it was just you, and when he wasn't taking care of the other 5 children you had for him before you had this last one, but I do recognize that there are some people that just will always see you as some other that they feel like they need to correct and fix. And that is not their place. I always say accountability is a tool, not a weapon. And people do weaponize accountability so much, especially against Black women and especially against Black single mothers. So that is that, which is why I'm going to have to give baby girl her props on even being willing to come forward and tell the truth about what happened because I'm be honest, I don't know if I could. The way people talk and the way people drag, I don't know. I probably would have just disappeared. I'd have shut everything down and just left but she was telling people, to follow her footsteps. She was espousing these things in a way in the posture of a teacher and a mentor. And so I have to applaud her 100% for being willing to come back and say, hey, yeah, I was wrong. some of the most popular women within the mentorship, uh, Black women's empowerment, so forth and so on space would never. You can catch them. They've been caught red handed in lies, in hypocrisies, in flip flopping and everything. And they will just keep talking as if they didn't say something that's completely different than what they said before. Or, you know what I mean? Like, most of these people will not ever let you see them slipping. They will not ever let you know that they are shown such grace and humanity and responsibility in being willing to come forward and say, I made a mistake. And that is such an important step. And yes, I'm about to plug my book because it is something that I mentioned in my book. The first step in order to changing the trajectory of your life, if you find yourself in a situation as a single mother or a Black woman where things are just not going the right way, you have to be willing to say, wait a minute, I made a mistake. Stop everything. And be willing to let all of that stuff fall away. There are so many women for everyone of her caliber that will not accept what's right in front of their face, that will not prioritize the safety and the healing of their children, that will not be willing to walk away from a man that don't even have all of what that man had to give her. And so I think that's really, really important to highlight and celebrate, because part of the discussion about the dragging of Black women is that we can do no right no matter what we do. To highlight the fortitude and character it takes to be willing to be wrong. I think that is the number one problem with a lot of us in the Black community, is that we're not willing to just say, yep, you know what? I need to stop doing this thing that I was doing. I was wrong. So I, for one, am going to give her props for that. The other thing, which I alluded to, was that she was willing to take public accountability for it. And I would like to think that it wasn't just because she was looking for sympathy or anything, but that she recognized that she had stood up in front of everyone and said, hey, this is the way. This is what to do. This is how to be. And seeing what it got her, instead of cutting and running or just pivoting quietly without letting anybody know, she was willing to say, no, 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 hold on, wait a minute, need to take a beat, because this happened and I wasn't going for this. And that, again, is something that is a testament to character in my perspective. Now, I don't know this girl. This is the first I ever heard of this girl. And I'm calling her girl because I'm much older than her. But I know she's a grown woman. I never heard of her before this situation, before a couple days ago. So this is not me vouching for her. Stuff could come out, and if it do, it do. But I'm talking about this specific situation. I think that is commendable and definitely an example to follow. Now, pray it doesn't have to be this type of a situation, but I feel like it is a call to action for a lot of women who are in situations that aren't that bad, but are bad enough and need to recognize. And it doesn't have to be, if your situation is not public, if you're not on YouTube or social media espousing that you have all the answers, then you don't have to do that. But it may just be confessing to your children, hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I've had us around this dude that is just not good vibes. I'm sorry I've had us in this situation where you are being relegated to a second class citizen. I'm sorry that I've been so caught up in my own stuff that I don't feel like I can handle dealing with you emotionally. And so I just drown myself in work and aspiring to do better and better and better and get money and just throwing, toys and material things at you, all types of stuff. And again, in my book, I talk about all the different ways that single mothers kind of push aside their emotions and don't process. So there's many ways that you can atone to the people that it's important to atone to for where you may have gone wrong. And it's okay. And truth be told, like, that is the first and the biggest step. Once that's done, I'm trying to tell you, and I'm speaking from experience, it becomes so much easier to just stop and pivot and do what you need to do to find your own way. And I pray that that's what happens for this lady and her family, because this is a devastating thing to go through. And I've been just down for a long time, immobilized by the pain of realizing certain things that I did to my oldest daughter specifically, or certain things that ways I wasn't there for her. And so my heart goes out to this woman so much. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I am deeply saddened by the fact that this happened. I wish it hadn't, but hopefully, with all things, we can glean what we need to move forward in the best way for ourselves, to grow, to self-actualize, and to create the type of world that we would want our children, nieces, nephews, cousins, sisters, grandmas, aunties to live in. So thank you so much for watching. Go ahead, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. And please let me know in the comments if you have anything, that you noticed in this situation that stood out to you, or if you disagree, that's fine too. Just let me know. And when it comes to this, I know there's a lot of stuff going on uh, on the internet and social media that has to do with things that you would probably think I would talk about. But like I said, I don't like to just jump on the bandwagon because everybody is talking. I like to take time to process my thoughts and find the value in speaking on the situation. So just know I'm aware, and I'm doing the internal work to try to bring you something that I feel like is worthy of your time and that you need to hear, as opposed to just something to fill up space in my content catalog or whatnot, or to get eyes over here. But you could do your part in getting eyes over here if you think what I have to say is of value. But like I said, I'm doing what I can to be integral in what it is that I'm putting out here for you. So I will talk to you all later. And remember that the legacy you live is the legacy you leave. Bye.